There is a terrifying asymmetry in the creator economy right now. If you look at the data coming out of 2026, you see this contradiction that feels, I don't know, almost cruel. You have thousands of creators, smart, talented people doing everything right, grinding 80-hour weeks, hiring expensive editors. They pour their absolute soul into a video, hit publish, and then just silence. Stuck at 800 views.
And then you have the other side of that coin. You see channels that seem to exert almost zero creative effort. They aren't inventing anything new. They're not artists in the way we usually think of them. And yet they are pulling in millions of views per upload consistently, like clockwork.
It feels broken. It feels like the link between hard work and success has been completely severed. And the easy answer, I think the one everyone wants to believe, is that it's just luck, or it's the algorithm.
But the research we're looking at today suggests something much darker. It suggests that if your strategy is just work harder, you are actively participating in your own obsolescence.
So it's not luck.
It is not luck. It's not a broken algorithm.
Yeah.
It is a fundamental misunderstanding of what the market actually values. We're looking at a forensic analysis of stalled YouTube channels, specifically in these automation and faceless sectors. And the data is clear. The market does not reward effort, it rewards positioning. The creators who are failing, they're failing because they're caught in a trap of their own making. They're trying to be inventors.
Which sounds so counterintuitive, right? We're taught that invention is the holy grail, that to be a creator means you create something from nothing.
But this source material calls that the invention trap, and it argues that the moment you sit down to brainstorm a new idea, you've already lost. Because brainstorming is effectively gambling.
Right.
When you try to conjure an idea out of thin air, you are betting your time, your capital, that you can guess what a million strangers want to watch better than they do. And the odds of that are, well, they're not good. The operators who are dominating this space, and I call them operators, not creators, because they treat this like a supply chain, they've stopped inventing entirely. They don't generate demand.
They harvest it.
Harvest it.
Okay, harvesting sounds very industrial. Before we get into the mechanics of that, I want to understand the victim of this invention trap. The source describes a very specific profile of a struggling channel.
It's a painful profile to read because it's so common. Picture a faceless channel. Maybe they're doing history documentaries or tech news, true crime. You know the type. They aren't on camera. They're using stock footage, kinetic text, maybe an AI voiceover that sounds just a little too perfect. They've been uploading for 6 months. They've upgraded their editing. The pacing is fast. The audio is crisp. But they are just flatlining.
And when that flatline happens, the creator usually turns inward. They blame the quality. They think, I need better motion graphics, or I need to switch from true crime to finance because the RPM is higher.
Exactly. They look at their dashboard, they see advertisers are paying them pennies, and they assume the niche is the problem, or the competition. But that's a misdiagnosis. The research shows the failure point didn't happen during editing. It didn't happen when they chose the niche. It happened before they even opened their computer. It happened because they asked the question, what should I make?
Instead of what?
What is already being consumed? It's a subtle shift, but it changes the entire business model. The source uses the launch of the first iPhone as the perfect analogy for this.
Wait, I have to push back on that. Steve Jobs is the ultimate inventor. The iPhone was a 0 to 1 moment. If you're saying Jobs was a harvester, that feels like you're rewriting history.
I know, that's the mythology talking. We like to imagine Jobs sitting in a white room, meditating, and just receiving this divine vision of a smartphone. But look at the actual market data from 2007. Jobs didn't invent the desire for a touchscreen. He didn't invent the internet. He observed 2 massive existing signals in the market. Signal 1. People were absolutely obsessed with MP3 players, with iPods. Signal 2. People were addicted to calling and texting their friends.
So he didn't create the behaviors.
No. He saw where the attention already lived. He saw 2 distinct fires burning, and he combined them into a single device. He didn't invent the desire. He packaged it. He positioned a product directly in the path of existing demand. And the argument here is that successful YouTube channels do exactly the same thing. They don't try to convince you to care about a new topic. They find the topic you are already obsessed with, and they build a mirror to reflect it back to you.
That sounds incredibly cynical. It basically says, don't be an artist. Don't express yourself. Just be a data analyst. If I'm a creator and I want to make something unique, this methodology seems to suggest I'm just wasting my time.
I wouldn't call it cynical. I would call it efficient. Look, if you want to make art for yourself, do it. That's great. But if you're trying to build a media asset that generates revenue, you have to respect the market. The invention trap is just ego. It's the belief that your idea is better than the data, and the data is ruthless.
Okay, let's assume I'm willing to swallow my ego. I want to stop guessing and start harvesting. How do I actually do that? The source warns against just copying the biggest channels. It mentions something called the 2 to 20 rule.
Right, and this is critical. Most people, when they try to harvest, they look at the biggest competitor in their niche. They sort their videos by most popular. They see the #1 video has 20 million views, and they say, I'll do that. That is a trap.
Why? I mean, 20 million views is a massive signal.
It's a signal, but it's often a noise signal. The #1 video on any channel is usually an outlier. It went viral because of a specific cultural moment or a Reddit thread or just pure algorithmic luck. It's a black swan. You can't replicate a black swan. If you base your entire strategy on an anomaly, you're going to fail.
So the 2 to 20 rule means
You ignore the #1 video. You look at the videos ranked #2 through, say, #20. These are the videos that performed well not because of luck, but because of consistent audience intent. That is the repeatable baseline. That is the signal you want to surround.
Okay, let's look at a concrete example of this. The research highlights a channel called Kings and Generals,
Right.
high-end historical documentaries. A standard approach for a history channel would be to sit down and say, Napoleon was interesting, let's make a bio of Napoleon.
Right. And if they did that, they'd be fighting for scraps. I mean, there are 1,000 Napoleon biographies. It's saturated. But Kings and Generals didn't do that. They waited. They scanned the horizon for a massive external signal. In this case, it was the release of Ridley Scott's Napoleon movie.
Hollywood blockbuster with $100 million marketing budget.
Exactly. They knew that Sony Pictures was about to spend millions flooding the internet with the keyword Napoleon. They knew interest was about to peak, so they don't try to create interest. They intercepted it. They released a video titled, Is Ridley Scott's Napoleon Historically Accurate?
That's brilliant because it drafts off the controversy. They aren't just summarizing history, they're answering the specific question people are asking after seeing the trailer.
They leveraged the marketing budget of a major studio to fuel their own growth. They let Hollywood do the heavy lifting of creating the attention, and they just set up a bucket to catch the rain. That is harvesting. You aren't pushing a boulder up a hill, you are riding a landslide that someone else started.
There's another example here that I think applies even more to the news-jacking style of content. Business Insider. They covered the Dubai chocolate trend. Now, for those who missed it, this is a viral food trend with these massive pistachio-filled chocolate bars.
A classic fleeting trend. Most creators saw that and thought, I'll do a taste test. And thousands of them did. And most of them failed because the taste test is low value. Business Insider applied the harvesting mindset. They didn't look at the chocolate. They looked at the system. They found a specific angle, the factory race to keep up with demand.
The factory race. That shifts the genre entirely. It goes from a food review to a supply chain thriller.
It creates tension. Can they make it fast enough? It taps into a different psychological trigger, our fascination with logistics and scale. They took a high-volume, noisy topic and found a specific friction point within it. Again, they didn't invent the chocolate trend. They just identified where the heat was and positioned a lens over it.
But this brings up a problem. Identifying the topic, Napoleon or Dubai chocolate, is only half the battle. You can pick the right topic and still make a boring video. The source talks about pattern extraction as the next step. This seems to be where most people get the copying part wrong.
This is the difference between a cargo cult and an engineer. A cargo cult builds a plane out of wood and hopes it flies. An engineer understands aerodynamics. In YouTube terms, most creators see a successful video and they copy the wood, the title, the thumbnail, the subject, but they miss the aerodynamics, the psychological question that keeps the viewer watching.
The research breaks down a video from the infographic show to explain this. The title is, What If You Never Slept?
And this is a masterclass in structure. A novice harvester looks at that and thinks, okay, the topic is sleep deprivation. I'll make a video listing the health effects of not sleeping.
Right. It's bad for your heart, you lose focus, that sort of thing.
Boring. Nobody watches that. The reason the infographics show video worked wasn't the topic. It was the structure. It was a day-by-day breakdown. Day 1, you feel groggy. Day 2, you start hallucinating. Day 3, your organs begin to shut down.
It's a countdown. Or I guess a count up. It gamifies the suffering. You have to keep watching to see how bad it gets on day 5.
Precisely. The structure is an escalation engine. The hook isn't sleep. The hook is human deterioration over time. So if you want to harvest that success, you don't copy the topic of sleep. You extract the pattern. You ask, What other biological functions can I apply to a day-by-day deterioration timeline?
So that's how you get, what if you never drank water? Or what if you stopped eating?
You keep the engine, the day-by-day escalation, but you swap out the fuel. That is pattern extraction. You aren't copying the painting, you are stealing the brush technique.
This leads us directly into the concept of the multiplication engine. Because once you have that brush technique, that winning pattern,
Yeah.
the goal is to exploit it. A source says you should basically stop looking for new ideas entirely at that point.
This is where we move from addition to multiplication. Most creators are on a treadmill. They get one hit, they celebrate, and then they go right back to the drawing board to invent the next one. It's so inefficient. The faceless strategies we're analyzing suggest a different approach. The infinite idea loop. If you have a winner, you don't move on. You iterate until the well is dry.
The outline gives 4 specific ways to do this. I want to challenge you on these, because some of them sound a bit cheap, like you're just rehashing content. The first one is update it.
It's not cheap, it's necessary. Information decays. If you made a video the best AI tools 6 months ago, that video is now functionally useless. The tools have changed. But the audience's desire to know the best tools hasn't, so you make new GPT versus old GPT. The market has shifted, validating a refresh. You aren't rehashing, you are maintaining the asset.
Okay, that makes sense for tech or news, but what about the second one? Reverse it. This one feels like a gimmick. If what if you never slept works, the source suggests doing what if you slept 20 hours a day. Is that really enough to sustain a channel?
Think about the psychology, though. Why did someone click what if you never slept? They're curious about the biological limits of the human body. They want to see the extreme. What if you slept 20 hours a day? Promises the exact same payoff. It explores the consequence of an extreme behavior. The variable is inverted, but the value proposition, that curiosity gap, is identical.
The third leverage point is go extreme.
This is about raising the stakes. There's a channel called Yellow Dude. He went viral with, I jumped rope for 30 days. A physical challenge, a linear progression.
So how do you multiply that?
You crank the dial, I jumped rope for a year. Or you keep the time frame and change the activity to something harder. 1,000 push-ups for 30 days. The audience loved the struggle and transformation of the first video. Going extreme just promises a bigger struggle, a bigger transformation.
And the fourth point, sequels and splits.
This is standard in education. If you explain a complex topic like integrals in math, you don't do it all at once. You do level 1, level 2, level 3. You create a dependency. If someone watches level 1, they have to watch level 2 to complete the set. You're building a closed loop where one view turns into 3.
So we have the theory, harvest the signal, extract the pattern, multiply the winners. But there's a bottleneck here. Doing this level of analysis, watching 20 videos, breaking down the structure, finding the friction points, that takes time. A lot of time.
It does, which is why the final piece of this workflow is the AI workflow. But I want to be very specific here. We are not talking about asking ChatGPT to write me a script that produces garbage. We are talking about automating the iteration phase.
The source provides a very specific prompt. It warns that most people use AI wrong by asking it for ideas from scratch.
If you ask an AI, give me video ideas, it's going to hallucinate generic fluff. Top 10 health tips. Useless. The protocol here is to feed the AI the proven signal you already found manually.
So I've done my 2 to 20 research. I found the what if you never slept video. I feed that into the AI.
Yes, you feed it the winner, and then you use this specific command. I'm a faceless YouTube channel in niche. I found this idea. Insert proven idea. Give me 10 to 15 iterations at different angles. They must be more specific, clearer, or relate to a different topic.
So you're treating the AI like a junior analyst. You give it the constraints.
Exactly. You force it to work within the boundaries of a proven structure. And the result is you get 20 valid variations in seconds. You pick the best one, and then, and this is recursive, you ask for 10 more iterations on that specific winner. You just drill down until you have a diamond.
The source also mentions a stop guessing checklist. This feels like a final go-no-go gauge before you even write a word of the script.
It's a kill switch. Before you start production, you have to answer 3 questions. 1, has this topic had proven attention? 2, is the angle clearer or more specific than the original? And 3, does the title make a promise the viewer actually cares about?
And if the answer is no to any of them,
you abort. You do not make the video. In the old world, the artist world, you might make it because you felt good about it. In this system, your feelings are irrelevant. The data is the only green light.
it's cold. It's incredibly industrial. We are talking about stripping away the serendipity of creation and replacing it with a checklist.
It is the industrialization of creativity. You strip mine the data, you process the ore, and you ship the product. There's no room for ego in a factory, and that's what this research is saying. YouTube is no longer an art gallery. It's a factory floor.
Which brings us back to that contradiction we started with, the Steve Jobs synthesis versus the inventor. It seems the successful creators of the future won't be the ones with the wildest imaginations. They'll be the ones with the best listening skills.
Listening at scale, and being humble enough to accept that the market knows what it wants better than you do. The death of originality isn't about the death of content, it's about the death of the guess. The era of guessing is over. The era of precision has begun.
I want to leave everyone with a thought to mull over. We spent this entire time talking about efficiency, optimization, and giving the audience exactly what they want. It's a compelling business model. It makes sense on a spreadsheet. But if success in this ecosystem is strictly about repackaging what already exists, about effectively mirroring the audience's current obsession back at them, then we have to ask, are you building a media company? Or are you just building a mirror?
And if you're just building a mirror,
Does the algorithm even know the difference? Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
see you next time.